Hey, what's up? GW coming to you live. Hey, listen, I just got done watching a movie that I think flew under the radar for its time. It's a pretty decent horror film, and it's called The Fear, and we're going to get into that momentarily. I think it was pretty entertaining, but apparently it kind of bombed at the box office. So, in 1995, so we're going to cover that in just a minute. But first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Jenna Lamison. Very cool. I promised her a shout out a couple of times and actually forgot about it. She's very appreciative of everything I do. Very nice, very good hearted. And I just wanted to say, hey, first of all, sorry I didn't give you a shout out earlier. Second of all, you deserve more shout outs. On that note, I'd also like to thank everybody. A lot of people are watching my videos, where I work, and it's pretty cool. So, thank you to all the people that do. And I'm glad I could educate you on stupid things like slasher films. And that last video I dropped, I've had a couple of people come up to me and say, you know, Greg, those stories that you told, were they really true? Yep, they were. You can ask my mom if you ever meet her. And, you ask her about it, she will tell you that three little Motley Crue wannabes decided to trash a hotel, and I think we did it in the heyday of hotel trashing. When all the hard rock, metal thrash bands were doing it, we decided to do it on a junior level. You know what I'm saying? So there's that. There's a few more stories that I'll share here periodically, but I want to get to this because this is the Halloween season. This movie sort of fits that, and it's called The Fear, as I mentioned, and it's a 1995 horror slasher psychological terror film that really got, I think, trashed for the time. And I think it came out, I think it was right in the middle of the direct to horror video thing. So, it had all the makings of a good one. It was just, I would say, maybe on a low budget, maybe, I don't know. But a couple things about this film is one, it was a movie directed by Vince Robert and starring Vince Edwards in his final film role. So I don't know who that is, and I don't know what he's did, but we're going to figure it out here in a minute. It stars Eddie Bose, Darren Hearns, Leland Hayward, and Ann Turkel. I'm reading from Wikipedia because the Blu-ray is downstairs, and I really didn't feel like, doing it. And I just popped it in, watched it, came up here, shot a video. So basically, the plot of the movie is um, one university student decides to create a fear clinic up in a remote cabin area, and he wants dysfunctional college or people with university students with fears to come up and participate in this. And it's one of them deals where you sit around and you tell everybody what you're afraid of, and at the end of the thing you go home and you feel better because you confronted your fear, something like that. So, but in doing that, he finds a wooden mannequin named Morty that has been with him since childhood, and the main character comes into this um sort of with those memories as a kid, with Morty repressed. So you know he almost forgot about him basically when the story starts. And what happens is the first half of the movie is just your basic therapy session sort of deal. Everybody gets a little dysfunctional, people don't want to participate. And the second part is a very weird psychological terror trip, where things start appearing that, you know, normally wouldn't appear in real life. That's why, again, the horror element comes in. Um, A lot of things aren't what they seem in this film, and there's a lot of unanswered questions when you're done watching it. But this movie actually, I think, made Mannequin scary long before Creepshow two's, you know, story, Old Chief Woodenhead, you know. The other thing about this film is that there's a couple of plot lines that thread pretty neatly into the narrative. One, prior to these college kids going on to a fear clinic, the university that they are currently taking classes at, there's a known rapist there. And they get up and they go to this fear clinic thinking that, you know, everything is going to be fine, they'll catch the rapist. But the rapist is actually one of the people in the fear clinic. And again, now you have paranoia because everybody's blaming each other and everybody's getting a little bit crazy about it. This film, from what I can gather, is set somewhere near Christmas time, and this has to be. They never tell you where it is, where the location where this film is, but there is a Christmas theme amusement park that's sort of up away from the cabin that these people are doing the fear clinic at. And the owner is tied to the psychology student who is putting on this fear clinic. And I can't go into anything else because you're just going to have to see the movie to see how that ties in. As the movie goes on, more things are unearthed. Obviously, what you think is revealed to be a falsehood, or what you think goes deeper into crazy territory, and Morty is pretty creepy. And honestly, this movie isn't bad. The thing holding it back from being a great slasher film is the fact that it's more psychological than gory. This could have been turned into something crazy. There is a little bit of backstory about Morty. Apparently, the Native American who carved the mannequin, Morty, injected him with some magic. It's never fully really explained or flashed back to. But there's a lot to it, and it's one of those ones where you think about it, the more that, you know, after you watch it, the more you think about it. The late great Wes Craven actually plays the psychology teacher, Dr. Arnold, which is pretty neat because it's one of the very few times, if not the only time, he was in front of the camera, not behind it. So this film was released theatrically January 20th, 1995. And I think it came to video shortly after that because I remember renting it in February or March of that year. And it was one of those ones where you look at the cover and you go, this could be good. Killer Mannequin, you know, check it out. But it's far from. It's far from. There's a lot of things going on in here. The soundtrack of this movie was praised highly because it has a lot of horrorcore Detroit hip hop to it. And that is a genre of music I was raised up in, you know, probably teen and college years. You know, Esham, Gravediggers, Insane Clown Posse, Flatliners, who only did one CD, Natus, Nation Ahead of Time and Space, fronted by Esham, Mastermind, TNT. You know, I know all those guys. But if you're familiar with that genre, or that genre of music, you will definitely appreciate the element in what they were trying to create. And it really didn't come off as well as it should, obviously. So it kind of it really kind of stumbled, and it became, you know, a joke. In fact, it has a very low rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but there are sequences in here, and there is something here that at the very least makes you feel uneasy, or you watch it, you have to watch it a couple of times and go, huh? Like what's going on here? And it's not for everybody. I mean, don't get me wrong. And honestly, if you go into it looking for, something of a high caliber, killing spree type movie like Friday the 13th, you're obviously going to be disappointed. But there is something that's here that's not in most horror films or slasher films, and that's a decent type story. And the story deals with matricide. It deals with, psychological issues. It deals with, it puts rape, a character who's a college rapist right in the forefront. And the only bad thing about that angle is you never really see, you see the guy get killed, but it's not a great elaborate revenge where like, yeah, that dude got it. You know what I'm saying? Um, all in all, it's a decent watch. You can probably find it on YouTube. The Blu-ray is discontinued. It was put out by Vinegar Syndrome, and they did a hell of a job. If you have it or you find it, the only thing missing is the Isha Morty's theme video, which if you are ever interested in that kind of rapper hip hop, check it out. It fits really good with the movie. Um, the movie probably runs about an hour and a half, clock back, but it never slows down. I mean, it gets kind of to the point where you wonder what's going to happen, basically. And it's not, it builds up anticipation for the climax of the film. And there's some things pulled from Evil Dead. There's some things pulled from all kinds of stuff. In fact, when you watch the credits, the director actually praises, all these other artists, you know, all these other, movie makers. So he pulls things from different genres and he hit it a blender, and it works, but it doesn't work as well as it could. And Morty, I think, is very underused. I think if they made him, turn the fears against the people, it would have been a much more entertaining slasher. Kat thinks the same thing, obviously. But it's worth checking out. I mean, it is the season, and you may like it, you may not. It runs about 98 minutes, so it's an hour and 38 minutes actually. But it doesn't feel like it. It felt like it ran pretty brisk. You know what I'm saying? So, but there is a lot of things here. There's a lot of character development that I guess the director missed the opportunity to, further explore. Richard, the psychology student's backstory, is the only one that I've noticed that they sort of really dove into. But yeah, and I do believe this film actually warranted a sequel, which, if they did, I'm just gonna say, because I do remember. Yes, they did. It's called The Fear Halloween Night. I knew they did. Now, I did not see this film at all. And I'm just going to see real quick here if it follows up to. So it's an hour and 30 minutes, and it says the tagline or the synopsis is Morty brings out the worst fears of a new group of people in the sequel to help others. At the end of The Fear, it does set you up with the idea of a sequel, but 4 years later, we still get, you know, still get, probably the same rehash version. I have not seen this movie, like I said, but I don't know. It probably went direct to video as well, is what I'm getting, and it got a 3.2 out of 10. So I don't know, guys. I don't know. But actually, you can buy it at thrift books. You can buy the 4 pack, the Fear Halloween Night. Yeah, so there you go. Um, yeah, I kind of figured they would make a sequel, but yeah, I never saw it, so I cannot comment on it. But The Fear Resurrection, also titled The Fear 2 Halloween Night. So it had multiple titles. So, but The Fear, the first one, is not a bad movie. It's different from your basic, you know, slasher film. And honestly, there's not a lot of gore into it. You know, there really isn't. Um, there hardly is any. There might be a few f bombs dropped and maybe some lyrics from the soundtrack that maybe warranted an R-rated movie. But to be fair, it's fairly tame and it's more psychological. And I think the nature of it is why it got rated R to begin with. But I enjoyed it. It was a different take. It's more like a movie that you watched, and if you remember, you go back a couple years later and you check it out. But all in all, I'd give it maybe a 5 out of 10. I wouldn't rate it as bad as Rotten Tomatoes because there are some good ideas. They're just not utilized correctly, you know. And that's not a knock on a director. I think the budgetary things and what he's trying to do, and the ending sort of got, I don't know. I think the ending was just put together, but they do some cool things. It's just a matter of, the direction the director took. So The Fear is not bad. You could probably find it free on YouTube. I just got the Blu-ray because, just because. But if you get a minute and there's rainy day and there's absolutely nothing to watch and you want to see a throwback to the direct-to-video era, check out The Fear. It's definitely good, and it's also worth noting to see Wes Craven, like I said, in front of the camera, or in front of the camera, not behind the camera. So definitely give that a whirl. But as far as the second one, I think I'm going to pass on that because just looking at, you know, just looking at some of the reviews for the second one doesn't really look great. And it is out of print, obviously. So, what are you going to do? So that's my review for today. And like I said, I want to give a shout out to Jenna Lamison. Want to give a shout out to Connor. Want to give a shout out to, you know, Emily and Casey. Casey is no longer down there. At least she's sporadic, or here and there down there. A lot of people. It's funny because I've been doing this for a long time, and you get to know a lot of people, and you realize that you matter to people. And I'm starting to realize that, you know, maybe a stupid movie review that I do, but people appreciate, you know, me. And I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to feel it even in my work. The other day I was asked to do something I had never done before. My boss was like, dude, can you clean some cars? I was like, yeah, and I've been cleaning cars all the time. And he's like, no, dude, we're going to go outside. I said, all right, let's rock. You know what I'm saying? So when you're appreciated, you feel better, about yourself. You work better, I think. And I think the thing is, you come into your own. And I told him, I said, hey, man, I couldn't have done it without you. And he goes, no, dude, it was you. And you know what? He was on to something. Maybe there's stuff, and I don't mean to preach, and I don't mean to sound like, Dr. Phil or nothing, but maybe there's something in all of us that unless somebody taps into, we don't know that we have. And I'm starting to learn that, 45, 46 years old, I'm starting to learn just, how to be an adult now. I mean, go figure. And, I'll cut a review and I'll be, doing my thing at work, and I'll see people listening to me and Judah. And I'm like, dude, you have this whole world of things that you could be listening to. You listen to me, and that makes me feel pretty cool. But I think lately, too, in the world, that, looking around at the world's crazy nowadays, man. And it's getting more crazy every time I turn around. Every time I turn on the news and I see, shootings and everything, I'm just like, damn, like, what the hell? And I just don't know. I don't know. But I just know one thing: the more that you guys appreciate what I do, the more I appreciate you guys being there and guiding me. Because a lot of the people don't know, like Jenna and Cody, and, or not Cody, Connor, and Emily, and Casey, and a lot of these people, I guess they don't know. Emily, my man Justin Mays, a lot of these people don't know that, in just the smallest interaction with those people, I take something away and it makes me a better person. So the more you appreciate me, the more I'm going to reflect back and appreciate you. Um, and also my man Josh. My man Josh, I love him to death. I cut some promos on him, and I'm not done with him. But I told him, Josh is you guys know my thoughts on Josh. Josh is a cat that I really appreciate being in my life and being as a friend, because I've learned a lot of stuff from him. I've got into things that I normally never would have got into, and he took the time to say, "Hey, Greg, check this out," and that's the thing. Nobody has to do nothing for nobody in this world. But a lot of people are good hearted, and a lot of people go out of their way because they think, and it might be nothing to them, but it's everything to you. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to leave y'all with that, but I didn't mean to preach on like that. But so yeah, and also I did start watching the Borderlands movie because we're playing Borderlands 4. Got to check it out, and I heard it got really terrible, nasty reviews. But having not knowing any of the gameplay or the characters that are portrayed in that movie, I thought it was a stupid fun movie, and I only watched about maybe an hour of it, so I got to finish it. So maybe the next review will do it on that from a non-gameplay perspective. And the thing is, I like all kinds of dumb movies, you know. And that movie seemed like it was pretty good, and from what I understand, and from what I saw, it tried to mirror the game pretty good. Maybe the characters aren't up to par. Maybe the characters are a little different. But hey, I don't know. I just thought it was a good movie to take your brain out of your head for a couple minutes, a couple hours, and check it out. So, what I'm saying basically is I don't care about critics. I'll watch something, and if I like it, I like it. I don't let nobody tell me what's good or what's not. I got to go find out for myself. And there are some chances where they're right, you know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of things that I think they get wrong, because I think they trash a movie sometimes because it's not like, an epic Scorsese, multi-budget $2 million, high caliber celebrity starring things. You know what I mean? I think they trash it, and you know, but there's been a lot of dumb movies that I thought were great. You know, and people go, "Well, that's just so stupid," because everybody's got different taste. Everybody either likes, they like horror, but they like it to a point, or they like comedy, but they don't like the raunchy comedy, or they like the old school retro stuff. I mean, there's things out there for everybody. And I think critics, when they see it's not a certain caliber movie, they like trashing it. So I don't know. That's just my take. Now I could be way off. I don't know. You know. But yeah, give The Fear a chance. It's a different movie, and I think looking at it today's standards, you know, you could go back and you could see that it set the tone for some other things that came down the line. Um, Now I could be wrong about the Creepshow reference, because now I'm thinking about it. I don't know if Creepshow was released first. So we're going to check that out because The Fear was released in 95, right? Okay. So I was wrong. Creepshow 2 was released in 87, which, by the way, that movie's coming out with a 4K cut. So Creepshow 2 actually, to my knowledge, set the tone for the killer wooden Indian story. So I was completely off. I didn't want to leave y'all guys with something wrong. But yeah. So it was Creepshow, and I think they wanted to create, killer cigar store Indians or wooden mannequins, you know. That might have been where they got the concept. So the Creepshow 2 was first. People that made The Fear took that concept and ran with it, and it's good, like I said, but it could have been done a lot better. So didn't want to give you any false information. All right, that's about all I got, and I don't really have anything else. Microsoft Game Pass is going up. I don't know if I'm gonna stick with it. I don't know. Because, I mean, there's only a limit to how much stuff you can deal with, So, but we'll figure all that out and more on the next Morning Massacre. Anyway, thanks to everybody who supported me, and I appreciate you. Also, big ups to McBride's Pizza. Always a plus. Big up, we had some medium wings last night. Them boys were good. Let me tell you something, man. So check it out if you're in Boyers, McBride's Pizza.